The old house stood on Oak Street. It was a tall, looming presence with peeling paint and a porch that creaked with every step. But for Matt, it was home. He had lived there his entire life and knew every nook and cranny. Matt wasn't scared of the creaking floorboards or the way the wind howled through the eaves. He loved the feeling of history in the house, the sense that he was surrounded by the echoes of the past. Sometimes he imagined the people who had walked these halls before him, their laughter and secrets lingering in the air. The house was a maze of hallways and rooms, each one filled with old furniture and dusty boxes. Matt loved exploring, running his hands along the worn banister and peering into the darkened corners. The house was his playground, a place where his imagination could run wild. Matt knew every floorboard in the house, every creak and groan. He knew which steps not to step on if he didn't want to alert his mum he was sneaking downstairs for a midnight snack. He knew the exact spot on the living room rug where the sunlight hit every afternoon, creating a warm patch for his cat, Midnight, to nap in. The house held no fear for Matt. It was a source of comfort, a familiar embrace. He loved the musty smell of old books that permeated the air, the way the sunlight streamed through the stained glass window in the hallway, casting rainbows on the wall. Even the occasional drafts that swept through the house, sending shivers down his spine, couldn't dampen his love for the old place. He felt safe within its walls, protected from the outside world. One humid afternoon, Matt's mum decided to tackle the attic. She pulled down a dusty old photo album, its leather cover cracked with age. She blew off the dust, revealing a faded picture of a young man in overalls, standing proudly in front of the house. "This," she said, "is your great-grandfather, the one who built this house." Matt stared at the photo, mesmerized. The man had the same dark eyes as him, the same determined set to his jaw. He imagined his great-grandfather working on the house, carefully laying each brick, his rough hands shaping the wood into sturdy beams. He felt a sudden connection to this man he had never met, a shared history that transcended time. The house was more than just a home. It was a legacy, a testament to his family's past. The old grandfather clock chimed 12 times, its deep, resonant tones echoing through the silent house. Matt woke with a start, his throat parched. He slipped out of bed, careful not to wake his little sister, who was sleeping soundly in the next room. He crept down the stairs, his bare feet padding silently on the worn steps. The house was dark, the only light coming from the moon shining through the dusty windows. The air felt heavy, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Matt tiptoed into the kitchen, his heart pounding in his chest. He grabbed a glass from the cupboard and filled it with water from the tap. As he drank, he thought he heard a noise from downstairs, a faint thump that seemed to come from the basement. Section 5, Sounds from Below. Matt froze the glass of water halfway to his lips. The sound came again, a soft thud followed by a scraping noise. His heart pounded in his chest. It sounded like someone was down there moving around in the dark. He knew he should just ignore it, go back to bed and forget he heard anything, but curiosity, like a siren song, drew him towards the basement door. He couldn't resist the urge to investigate. He crept towards the door, each step echoing in the silence. He reached out a trembling hand and slowly turned the knob. The door creaked open, releasing a musty smell of damp earth and something else. Something indescribable. Section 6, Shadows and Silence. The basement stairs creaked in protest as he descended, each step sending shivers up his spine. The air grew colder, damper, the smell of mildew stronger. It was pitch black, the darkness so complete it felt like a physical presence. Matt fumbled for the light switch, his hand closing around the cold metal. He flicked it on, but the bulb flickered feebly before dying completely, plunging him back into darkness. And then he saw it, a shape in the darkness, a tall, shadowy figure standing at the far end of the basement, its eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Matt gasped, his blood turning to ice. The figure moved, gliding towards him. Section 7. The Forgotten Brother. Matt scrambled back up the stairs, his heart racing. He slammed the basement door shut and fumbled for the lock, his hands shaking so badly he could barely turn the key. He stumbled back to his room, his mind racing. The next morning he told his mom about the shadowy figure in the basement. To his surprise, she didn't laugh or tell him it was just a dream. Instead, she grew quiet, a sad look crossing her face. "There's something I need to tell you," she said softly. "There was another child in this house a long time ago. Your great-uncle, he loved to play in the basement, but there was an accident." Section 8. A Name in the Night. Matt listened intently, his fear giving way to a chilling fascination. His mom explained that his great-uncle had disappeared without a trace, vanishing from the basement as if he had never existed. That night, Matt lay in bed, unable to sleep. He kept replaying his encounter with the shadow in the basement, the memory sending shivers down his spine. He wondered if it had something to do with his great-uncle, if his spirit was still trapped in the house. Just as he was drifting off to sleep, he heard it, a whisper, low and mournful, coming from beneath the floorboards. It seemed to slither up through the floor, wrapping around him like a cold, damp fog. Section 9. The House Whispers Back. The whisper grew louder, clearer, and then he heard it, his name. "Matt," the voice whispered. A long, drawn-out sigh that seemed to vibrate the air around him. "Matt." Matt's eyes flew open. He sat up in bed, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. The whisper seemed to be coming from right beneath his bed, as if whatever was down there was trying to get his attention. The voice called his name again, closer this time, filled with a longing that chilled him to the bone. "Matt, come play with me."